Hi, I'm Andrea. Thanks for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I have a chair, kind of optional for this one. Sometimes I say, hey, we're going to use it. It's nice to have it, just in case. Also, I would recommend a couple of blocks. If you don't have those, sturdy books should do the trick. A folded blanket of some sort, so maybe that's the throw blanket from your couch. Or could be that it's a folded beach towel. And I am standing on a yoga mat and I happen to be barefoot. You don't have to be either. Just find a carpeted place that isn't too slippery, and if you're more comfortable with your shoes on, that's fine. If you situate yourself so that you're facing me, I think you'll be able to see the best. I will do my best to move around and accommodate and explain so that you can see. And then we'll start, as we often do, standing with our feet hip distance, standing into our mountain, and finding a place that we can stop so that we can start. Feel your feet in the earth and the crown of your head like the peak of your mountain towards the sky. Feet hip distance with a soft bend in your knees. Turn your palms away from one another. Allow that to uplift your heart in every way. And smile your collarbones. It might even provoke a little smile elsewhere. Chin parallel to the ground, gazing at what I like to call our bright horizon. And we fill this majesty with our breath. Become aware of your breath. Let it travel in and out through your nose if that's possible. That was just a little bit of magic in the lighting here. And we'll add to our breath. Inhale, thumbs to the sky, V shape overhead. Exhale, float your arms alongside you, turn your palms to face out. Try that again. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. And then float your arms alongside you, palms face out. Adding to it, chair pose, bend your knees. V shape, thumbs to the sky, weight goes into your heels, and then inhale, stand, let your palms face away from each other. Bend your knees, V-shape, chair pose. Exhale, stand, float the arms along your side, turn your palms to face out. One more time like that. Inhale, thumbs to the sky, a V-shape. Exhale, stand, feet hip distance, palms face out, gaze at your bright horizon. Adding on again, bend your knees, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hands onto your thighs. Traction your hands onto your thighs and pause. Lengthen through the crown of your head. There's a hinge at your hips, but it's really about almost a little back bend in the upper back. Exhale, hinge at your hips a little bit deeper, but our head never goes lower than our hips. And then chair pose, knees stay bent, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Stand, float your arms along your sides, palms face out. Again, bend your knees, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. That's our inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips and place your hands on your thighs. Inhale, lengthen through your spine, tractioning your hands against the thigh bones. Exhale, a little deeper, hinge in your hips. And then inhale, chair pose. Knees stay bent, weight in the heels. Thumbs to the sky, and then float your arms along your side. We'll do that one more time. Bend your knees. Inhale, chair, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, place your hands on your thighs. Inhale, heart extends. We get the tallest we've been so far. Exhale, hinge at your hips just a little deeper, and then chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Let's pause here, if you don't mind, and let it simmer. Now do really weight in the heels, and do really lift your toes for a second. Just see if you can shift that way. We're not shrugging our shoulders into our ears, even though you might be wondering, why are we doing this? Last few moments here. And then stand and float your arms alongside you, palms face out. Fully inhabit your mountain. Find your breath once again. Full inhales. Complete exhales. The same magic as when we started, maybe a little bit less excitement and delighting in my room here. Now we will need props for our next thing. This is where some of you may enjoy using the chair, the seat of your chair. If you like to use props, your blocks are going to go on either side of your mat, so the long edge, but not directly underfoot. We want to be mindful in the placement of our props. And then position yourself in between your two blocks and or right in front of your chair. Back into our mountain we go. So feet hip distance, gentle bend in our knees. Chair pose, inhale, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. This is where you get to make your own choices. You could place your hands on the seat of the chair or place your hands on your tall blocks, but keep that length through your spine that we found when we had our hands on our thighs. Keep that, lift your low belly and step your left foot back so that we're in a lunge position. Now in our lunge, you want plenty of sideways space. So perhaps if you inch that right foot over to the right, it feels a little more solid. It's all about finding a solid foundation from which to extend. So strength and flexibility are both a part of this practice. Your right hip is drawing back, your left hip is drawing forward. There is that slight smile of a collarbone inspired back bend. And then we stay with it. You're on the base of the toes of your back foot, so there's not a lot of real estate there. You'll want to really press that left thigh bone into the hamstring. 2 moments here. With your belly firm and keeping that stability in mind, step your left foot hip distance from your right. Take your hands onto your thighs and inhale, tractioning length in our spine. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Keep the knees bent for chair, thumbs to the sky. And then stand into your mountain. Second side, bend your knees, chair, thumbs to the sky. Hands onto your thighs, and then inhale and traction length. Keep the length, place your hands onto the base of your chair or place your hands onto your tall blocks and step your right foot back, organizing the foundation into a lunge that feels solid. So maybe left foot over to the left on this side. We're drawing the left hip back, the right hip forward. We're not rounding. We're thinking of our mountain pose, and we're translating our mountain pose into this lunge. Keep breathing. Let it feel like a bit of a meditation here. Really, this whole practice is a movement meditation. When we get still, we can tune in, and when we tune in, we can source our compassion, really come from our heart, in our own direction and in the direction of others. Now, from here, with your belly firm, step your right foot hip distance from your left foot, hands onto your thighs. Inhale, exhale, hinge at your hips, chair pose, bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then stand into your mountain. Adding on, bend your knees, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthening your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips and find the seat of your chair or find the tall blocks on either side of you. And now step your left foot back. Once again, we start in our lunge and then we build out a pyramid pose. So as you straighten your front leg, you may want that sideways space and you'll turn your left foot flat onto the ground. Now it's tricky and probably a bit sticky. We want to keep our head higher than our hips. We're not rounding and folding too deeply. It's just a hip hinge and the right hip is drawing back and we're moving in the direction of a straight leg in our front leg. You can absolutely keep your hands on the seat of your chair if you prefer it. 3 moments to meditate in a new shape. Now to come out of it, we'll come out the way we came in. Bend your front knee, spin onto your back toes, firm through your belly, and step your left foot hip distance from your right. Hands to your thighs, traction some length as you inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips, chair pose, bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and then stand. Turn your palms away from each other. Inhale, chair. Exhale, hinge at your hips and place your hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen to your spine. Exhale, just a little bit more hip hinge, and then place your hands on the seat of your chair or hands onto your blocks. Step your right foot back. We begin in our lunge position. If you know that you want more sideways space, heel toe your left foot a little bit to the left, and then begin the process of straightening the front leg a little bit and turning the back foot flat. And there's a magnet on your left hip trying to draw back a little bit. And I don't mean a lot, I mean a little bit. Length through your spine, no head lower than hips at all. And we breathe on this side into our new shape. Last couple of moments here. Spin on your back toes. Step your right foot hip distance from your left, hands onto your thighs. Inhale. Exhale, a little deeper hinge, chair pose, bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and then stand it up into your mountain. A little bit different this time, you'll see what I mean. Bend your knees, chair pose, inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs. Inhale, extend your heart. Exhale, a little bit more hip hinge. Hands to the seat of your chair or hands onto your tall blocks. Step your left foot back. You're probably thinking, but wait a minute, where's the different part? Right here is the answer to that. Now keep your front knee bent and turn your back foot flat like we did in our pyramid pose, but this time heel toe your right foot over to the left. So it's a little bit more in the middle line. You have a couple of options. I will explain both of them to you. Now take your left hand onto your hip and karate chop your right forearm onto your thigh. And as you do, draw that right hip underneath you and turn your chest to face towards the left. You can stay here the whole time. I just want you to notice that something slightly different is going on in our right hip now than the previous lunges. And you can stay here and take your left thumb to the sky. We're just not collapsed into that right shoulder. It might be interesting at some point to take your right hand onto that block and then left thumb to the sky. So all I want is for you to be careful not to have your head lower than your hips. And if that can happen with your hand on your block and that feels good to you, great. We still have plenty of space between our shoulders and our ears. And then 3 moments here. Now take slowly your left hand onto your block, spin onto your left toes. If that means hands onto the seat of your chair, great. And step left foot hip distance from right. You may need to adjust the situation with your right block. Hands to your thighs. Inhale, traction, some length. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Easy for me to say, huh? And then stand into your mountain. Second side of that, bend your knees, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and place your hands. Inhale, length through your spine, and then exhale, a little bit more hinge. Hands to your chair or onto your blocks. Step your right foot back. We begin in our lunge that's rather familiar, and then we make it a warrior 2 stance. Spin your back foot, your right foot flat. Inch your left foot a little bit over towards the right. And then take your left forearm onto your left thigh and your right hand onto your hip, and just play with the idea of a magnet on your left hip, trying to take that left hip to your right toes. We're not collapsed, so you want to keep some oomph in the left arm. You can take your right thumb to the sky, arm to the sky. Maybe this is plenty. You can also just keep the hand on the hip, especially if you feel like some tension is happening in your shoulders. And then maybe at some point the experiment of taking your left hand onto the tall block on the outside of your left foot is of interest. You're just really careful not to let your head get too low. Both sides of the waist are long, as if we were standing in our mountain. And then we meditate on this for a few moments. Keep the inner upper arms spinning away from one another so it feels like space between your shoulders and your ears. Now, cautious as we come out of it. Both hands onto your blocks or the seat of your chair as you spin onto your back toes. Once you have your oomph and maybe that left block over to the left a little bit to give you space, step your right foot hip distance from your left, hands to your thighs, inhale length. Exhale, hip hinge. Chair pose, bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, and then stand into your mountain. Great, bend your knees, chair pose. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. So that's the rhythm of our sun salutation. Inhale your heart forward and exhale, a little hinge at the hips. Hands onto the seat of your chair or hands onto your blocks. Step your left foot back. So we're in our lunge position. And then turn your left foot on its side. Great. Now begin slowly to straighten that front leg and take your left hand onto your hip. Now you could keep your hand on your chair. You may need to pull the chair a little bit closer to you if you're going to use it. Hug that right hip underneath you. Perhaps take your left thumb to the sky and your left arm to the sky. So a triangle pose, set up a little bit differently than we're used to seeing it. You can use your hand on your right block. Again, I just want you to be cautious about not letting your head get too low. And we don't want this to be a side bend. We want to keep a hip hinge on that right hip. So whether your hand is on your chair or on your block, you feel a little karate chop action in that right hip. Stay with it and breathe into it and meditate on it. If it's tricky because it's a different entrance, find some compassion around it. Newness is a good thing. Now move slowly as we come out of it, because it is a new shape and a new way in. Bend your front knee, spin on your back toes. Both hands can be on your chair or both hands come to either side on your blocks. With your belly firm, step your left foot hip distance from your right foot, hands to your thighs. Inhale, traction length. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and stand into your mountain. So if you're using the chair for your triangle, it might be pretty close to you. Just be aware of your surroundings so you don't bump into anything. Chair pose, inhale, second side. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands on your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and exhale. A little hinge at the hips, hands can come to your chair or onto your blocks. Step your right foot back. First we start in our lunge. And it's a very slow and careful and conscientious construction. Back foot flat. Now you can have your hand on the seat of your chair or your hand on your left block. Right hand on your hip. Hug that left hip underneath you as you begin to straighten your left leg. And then as you're straightening that left leg, you could think of taking your right thumb to the sky, arm to the sky. Spin the inner upper arms away from each other so there's no shrugging of shoulders into ears. And then just let it steep here for a few moments. Now unwind, right hand onto your block or both hands onto the seat of your chair. Spin on your back toes. Firm through your feet and your belly. Step your right foot hip distance from your left, hands to your thighs. Inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Different. Hands to your chair or to your blocks so that we can wander down onto the floor. We'll come kneeling, but we've got a few prop changes that we may want to make. So perhaps because we're going to do a lunge on our knees, you want to bring that folded blanket or towel into the mix. Once you do, come kneeling. From kneeling, step your right foot forward. Voila, you're in a lunge. Thumbs to the sky, V shape overhead here in our low lunge. And then both hands come to either your tall blocks or books on the inside of your right foot, and you might step that right foot a little bit over to the left. Could be interesting to come onto your forearms, but I do want you to keep the length through your spine and not round trying to get low to the ground. Think of keeping a little dusting of back bend in the mix. This is called humble warrior. Compassionate warriors are humbled warriors, don't you think? Last few moments here. Take a little hamstring stretch. So come up onto your hands if you happen to be on your forearms. Straighten your right leg and shift the blocks to either side of that right foot, and then maybe walk your right foot a little bit towards the left. Curl your toes back, hinge at your hips. We're still not rounding. We're not trying to get our face close to our leg. I know sometimes that's what people think you're supposed to do. We want to keep a hinge at the hips. We want to keep the feedback of length and almost a dusting of a back bend in the upper back, and then all that goodness that you feel right on the back of your right leg. 2 more moments here. Now bend your right knee and swoop your right knee next to your left, and just make sure you have room if you're using your blocks. Hands on your hips. Step your left foot forward. So your left foot is now forward, and we V-shape, thumbs to the sky in our low lunge. And then arrange for some time in the humble warrior. So blocks on the inside I like to do. Walk your left foot to the left a little bit maybe. And it's plenty here. You feel the stretch, especially if you're not rounding and you're keeping that length through your spine. Could be interesting to come to your forearms for some of us. That feels good. That gives you what you want. Just try to keep the length through your spine. Last few meditative, quiet, compassionate moments here. Come up onto your hands if you happen to be on your forearms. Rearrange your blocks on either side of your left foot and walk your left foot a little bit over towards the right. Curl your toes back, dig your heel in, lengthen through your spine, and find a little stretch here. Just figure out where the porridge is just right. You're getting feedback of a stretch. You're not rounded. You're not creating tension between the shoulders and the ears or in your jaw. And then we pause. Begin to bend your left knee. Swoop your left knee next to your right knee. Take your blocks off to the side if you've been using them. We will use our seat upon our folded blanket. I like to fold mine more. You might join me in that same scenario. Now, we haven't done this one, I don't think, together, so we're just going to experiment. We're tinkering in our laboratory. Now you'll sit with your feet hip distance, and it might be interesting to have your blocks on either side of you, just to remember to sit tall. Do your best with this. It is sticky terrain for me too. Take your right ankle And see if you can cross ankle on top of left thigh without rounding your spine. So that might mean that you actually kind of have to keep that left leg straight, and that's okay too. So you could start it here and then just start to think about bending that knee in towards you. Find a place where you can stay with this stretch. 2 moments here. Cautiously place your right foot down and then left ankle on top of right thigh. And if that means that you need to keep the right leg straight, then do it. The other option always with this basically seated version of reclining pigeon is that you're always welcome to lie down. So if that's really where it needs to go, that's fine. And then using your blocks, you'll think of sitting up tall, and all that stickiness in our hips brings us to a compassionate place. Think of the miles that these legs have walked us in our time. We just want to send them a little love here, a little hip stretch love. Last couple of moments where we are. And then gently release this side. Move your props off the side, out of your way. And come lying down on your back. We'll take a spinal twist to set us up for our final Shavasana meditation. So lying back, scoot your hips to the left, step your feet as wide as your mat, and just let a little windshield wiper twist happen. So knees dropping right, hips shifting left. And then come back through center and scoot hips right, windshield wiper knees left. Come back to center, feet as wide as your mat. Knock your knees together. Take a moment to shimmy one shoulder blade and then the other underneath you with your palms to the sky. Lift your hips up just an inch so you get some space, and then gently place your hips back down on the ground. And this can be your final Shavasana meditation right here. Or maybe it feels good to extend one leg and then the other, flat onto the ground with your feet flopping open. Close, possibly cover your eyes, and then let yourself completely let go. Shavasana. You're always welcome, in fact, encouraged to stay in Shavasana longer. If you're ready, move your fingers and toes, maybe stretch in opposite directions. Bend your knees into your chest and roll gently to either side. Let the strength of your arms assist so that your head can come up slowly to any comfortable seat. And then sit with your palms up or down and appreciate how we feel after we practice. A little bit more compassion, don't you think? I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again together soon.